Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The U.S. federal government shutdown has entered its 42nd day. On Monday night, a group of 7 Democratic senators ratified a deal with Republican senators to approve a bill to reopen the government and end the longest shutdown in U.S. history. The bill notably does not include an extension of the Affordable Care Act subsidies. The Senate Majority Leader John Thune has agreed to a separate vote on them. The measure now heads to the House, which has not been in session since mid-September. The House vote on the spending package could come as early as Wednesday afternoon. Independent Senator Bernie Sanders called the vote a horrific mistake. Meanwhile, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries vowed to stand firm on the issue of health care subsidies.
We're not going to support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of the American people. And we're going to continue the fight to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. And if it doesn't happen this week, next week, this month, next month, then it's the fault of Donald Trump, House and Senate Republicans, who continue to make life more expensive for the American people.
Meanwhile, the Trump administration again informed the Supreme Court that it wants to prevent a lower court ruling requiring full food benefits under SNAP. That's the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, to be dispersed in November. 1 in 8 people in the United States rely on SNAP for food assistance. This is Tony Miller at a food bank in Phoenix, Arizona.
Trump is a joke. He's a joke. I work hard, but those little stamps that we get, it helps out. And he's starving the American people. I know he ain't lost a lot of supporters. He's a joke.
Syria's President Ahmed al-Shara met with President Trump at the White House yesterday. It was the first visit by a Syrian president to Washington, D.C. in history, and it comes just days after the U.S. said al-Shara was no longer a specially designated global terrorist. Al-Shara once had a $10 million bounty on his head and was jailed by U.S. forces as an insurgent in Iraq from 2005 to 2011. He was also leader of the Islamist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, that's HTS, which was formerly al-Qaeda's official wing in Syria before breaking off in 2016. In the Oval Office, President Trump promised sanctions relief for Syria and commented on the historic nature of his meeting with al-Shara.
We want to see Syria become a country that's very successful, and I think this leader can do it. I really do. I think this leader can do it. And people said he's had a rough past. We've all had rough pasts, but he has had a rough past, and I think, frankly, if you didn't have a rough past, you wouldn't have a chance.
European officials, speaking to Reuters, have expressed concern that the next phase of the Gaza ceasefire is effectively stalled and that reconstruction is increasingly unlikely. It comes as Israel continues to violate the U.S.-brokered truce, killing at least 242 Palestinians and injuring 622 since the deal came into effect October 10th. Under the agreement, the Israeli military currently controls a little over half the Gaza Strip, including the southern city of Rafah and parts of Gaza City. Nearly 2 million residents of the Gaza Strip are crammed into tent camps in the sections controlled by Hamas. This is Hamas spokesperson Hazem Qassam calling for the reconstruction phase to begin.
We are clearly saying that Hamas won't be in the picture of ruling the Gaza Strip during the next day, and this has been agreed upon. There will be a social support committee from independent people, which will rule everything in the Strip. Therefore, we are working on removing all the excuses put by all sides to prevent reconstruction. All the regions of Gaza deserve reconstruction equally. Hamas is ready to hand in power from now, in a way that the process of the Gaza Strip's reconstruction starts, and this is a right of the people of the Gaza Strip.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announced yesterday the U.S. military killed another 6 people on Sunday in 2 more strikes on boats in the eastern Pacific. Since early September, the Pentagon's claimed responsibility for 19 attacks on boats the U.S. has said without evidence are carrying drugs in the Pacific and the Caribbean, killing 76 people overall. The strikes come as the Pentagon's deploying its largest warship, the USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier, to join a buildup of U.S. forces in the Caribbean this week. The Supreme Court rejected an appeal on Monday to overturn its decision legalizing same-sex marriage. The justices turned away the appeal from Kim Davis, the former Kentucky court clerk, who refused to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples after the court's 2015 ruling in Obergefell versus Hodges. Human Rights Campaign President Kelly Robinson praised the decision, saying, quote, "The Supreme Court made clear today that refusing to respect the constitutional rights of others does not come without consequences," unquote. The Supreme Court has agreed to hear arguments in a case challenging Mississippi's counting of mail-in ballots received after Election Day. Under Mississippi's election law, ballots must be postmarked by Election Day and can arrive days later and still be counted. The Republican National Committee is challenging Mississippi's law. President Trump has railed against mail-in ballots and blamed them for his loss in the 2020 election. In more Supreme Court news, the private prison company GEO Group is seeking immunity from a lawsuit filed by more than 30,000 former prisoners of an ICE jail in Colorado who say they were coerced into participating in a $1 a day detainee work program. The Supreme Court heard oral arguments Monday in the case, with several Supreme Court justices appearing skeptical of GEO Group's position. The for-profit prison company is claiming sovereign immunity, the protection provided to the government from lawsuits because it was operating under a government contract. The GEO Group is opening more detention centers nationwide and received more than half its $2.4 billion revenue from federal contracts. Border Patrol Chief Gregory Bovino is reportedly leaving Chicago soon after months leading President Trump's contested immigration crackdown on the city. Bovino has been embroiled in controversy for defending his agents' use of force and lying about being attacked by protesters. CBS News reports Bovino and several of his agents could depart as early as later this week, though some Customs and Border Protection officials are expected to stay in Chicago. In related news, federal immigration agents reportedly pepper-sprayed a father and his 1-year-old daughter at close range over the weekend in the parking lot of a grocery store in Cicero, a Chicago suburb. Rafael Veraza said his family was in their car when they heard a helicopter and honking. As he attempted to leave the area, a masked agent approached the car and pepper-sprayed them at close range through an open window, hitting Veraza, who's a U.S. citizen, and his toddler, who struggled to breathe. The Trump administration is attempting to deport Kilmar Abrego Garcia to the West African country of Liberia. Abrego Garcia's case has been at the center of Trump's brutal crackdown on immigration, as officials have repeatedly threatened to deport the Maryland father to several nations where Trump has so-called third country agreements, including Uganda and Eswatini, countries Abrego Garcia has no ties to. Abrego Garcia is awaiting trial for human smuggling charges, which he and his legal team say were fabricated by the Trump administration. To see our coverage of Abrego Garcia's case, go to democracynow.org. British journalist and political commentator Sami Hamdi is set to be released from ICE custody, according to his lawyer. Hamdi was detained by ICE agents last month at San Francisco International Airport while he was on a speaking tour in the United States on a valid visitor visa. His visa was later revoked without his knowledge. Hamdi is an outspoken advocate for Palestinian rights. The CEO of CARE California, Hussam Ayloush, said, quote, Sami's case shows how quickly our government officials are willing to sacrifice our First Amendment and free press when a journalist uses his platform to dare put America first before Israel, unquote. President Trump's threatened to sue BBC for $1 billion over the public broadcaster's edit of a speech he made on January 6, 2021, before a mob of his supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol. Lawyers for Trump are demanding BBC retract the Panorama documentary that featured his speech edit by Friday. The threats follow the abrupt resignation of two top BBC executives, which Trump celebrated, saying on Truth Social, quote, these are very dishonest people, unquote. A whistleblower has told House Democrats and the Judiciary Committee that convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, is seeking a commutation of her 20-year sentence from President Trump. That's according to Maxwell's email to her attorney, reviewed by NBC News, with the subject line, commutation application, unquote. The whistleblower also reportedly detailed Maxwell's concierge-style treatment at the minimum security prison camp she was transferred to. In response, House Judiciary Committee ranking member, Congressmember Jamie Raskin, wrote a letter to President Trump saying, quote, you should not grant any form of clemency to this convicted and unrepentant sex offender. Your administration should not be providing her with room service, with puppies to play with federal law enforcement officials waiting on her every need, or with any special treatment or institutional privilege at all, Raskin wrote. In India, a car explosion near the Red Fort in New Delhi killed at least 13 people, injuring 20. Prime Minister Narendra Modi vowed to find those responsible, saying his government will, quote, get to the very bottom of this conspiracy. Police in New Delhi have invoked an anti-terror law in their investigation. In Pakistan, at least 12 people were killed and several injured after a car bomb exploded in the parking lot of a busy judicial complex in Islamabad. Government officials are investigating it as a suicide attack. Pakistan's defense minister said on X, Pakistan's in a, quote, state of war. Witnesses of the bombing described the chaotic scene.
It was 30 to 35 minutes since we parked our vehicle and entered the gate. Then there was a loud explosion. It was a big blast. There was fire all over. Body parts were strewn. There was chaos. Then police and security personnel came. It was a big explosion. It looked like a bomb blast.
In Ecuador, at least 31 people were found dead in a prison in the city of Machala, including over 24 prisoners who'd been hanged. This came just hours after prison guards found another 4 people killed. Authorities have blamed the deaths on clashes between gangs as human rights groups sound the alarm over overcrowded and dangerous conditions inside Ecuadorian prisons, causing a series of recent deadly attacks and riots. Meanwhile, relatives of those inside have repeatedly urged authorities to step up security and to detain rival gangs separately. And leaders and delegates from more than 190 countries gathered in the Amazon city of Belém, Brazil, Monday for the opening of the UN Climate Summit, marking the 30th year nations are gathering to address the climate crisis. The United States, the world's biggest historical emitter of greenhouse gases, boycotted the climate talks this year. Meanwhile, the Brazilian president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, warned against attacks on science and the interests of denialists and lobbyists attempting to derail climate negotiations.
It's time to inflict another defeat on deniers. Without the Paris Agreement, the world would be doomed to catastrophic warming of almost 5 degrees by the end of the century. We are moving in the right direction, but at the wrong speed.
To see our discussion about the Guardian exposé on fossil fuel lobbyists getting access to UN talks and helping block climate action, thousands of lobbyists, go to democracynow.org. Democracy Now! Will be in Belém, Brazil, all of next week, covering the UN Climate Summit. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.